Hello and welcome. You are listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. We really hope that you enjoy and benefit from this episode. So, hello folks, and welcome to yet another episode from the Sales Chat Show, saleschatshow.com, driving your sales forward. I'm Simon Hazeldine, and I am joined in the Sales Chat Show studio by my esteemed Sales Chat Show posse members, Mr. Steve Lindsay and Anthony Steers. And this episode is called Why Sales and Marketing Alignment is Still Broken. And why do we say sales and marketing alignment is still broken? Well, Steve, as part of Steve's organisation, the National Sales Conference Manufacturing Revenue Growth Summit, produce every year State of Sales report, which a lot of sales leaders contribute to. And we've been looking through this report, looking for some useful little nuggets of information. There is some interesting information where it analyses or asks people to respond with their opinion on where they are with sales enablement and what are the problems using sales enablement. And it compares 2026 to 2025 data, and sitting top of the list for both years and actually getting a little bit worse recently is alignment with marketing and lead generation. So this is sales leaders, their responses. One of the big problems is the alignment with sales, with marketing and lead generation teams. And this is kind of like, oh my goodness, are we still experiencing a lack of sales and marketing alignment? Despite all the best efforts, the problem is stubbornly refusing to go away, even with the rise of the CRO and all of the revenue functions reporting into him or her. It looks like we still have.
I think I know what the problem could be, is that if sales become very good friends with marketing, then who are we going to blame when we don't hit target? Okay. It's great to get your flamethrower out when you're not having a good month or a good quarter, and let marketing know that their leads are not good enough and it's all their fault.
Yeah, blame.
Obviously, I am jesting slightly here, but it seems to be where the friction seems to come in.
So blamethrower is lovely. I also was told one time that there's brainstorming where you might get your sales team together to generate clever ideas to grow revenue, and then there's blamestorming where you all get together and work out whose fault it is that you can blame for the finger for the sales forecast. And yeah, having managed more than one salesperson myself, it wouldn't be the first time a salesperson has said, well, if marketing would only send me a better presentation, or if marketing would only do this, or if marketing would only do that. It's that sort of like, along with...
Do we as... I was just about to say, do we in sales think we're good marketers? Is that potentially the problem here?
I have to say, Steve, interested in your view. You work with a lot of sales leaders and salespeople. I've got to say, I think the average sale, if I could be very, very judgmental, the average salesperson, he or she, probably has an elevated opinion of their understanding and knowledge of marketing. What's your perspective, Steve? Got to be careful in case there's any marketers coming to your event. So
and John, I think that's a fair assumption. And going back to your point, Anthony, around the blame game, we've all been there. We can even go back to childhood and sort of when you've got your sibling there, your little brother or sister. It was easy enough to actually to blame it on them as to why certain chores weren't done or mistakes were done. I suppose now with the rise of the CRO, you've actually got there's a good opportunity now for sales and marketing to buddy up, get together, because you've got a combined enemy now. Depending on the culture within your organisation, you've got the CRO to report to. So this is big mummy or daddy that's
Yeah.
out for you. So perhaps we should be
Sure.
working a bit closer together to make sure that we're both okay.
Steve, this
Mm.
is you bringing these deep psychological insights to every. This is almost very Freudian or transactional analysis. Parent, adult, child. We got this. The common enemy is the CRO, mummy or daddy. And I'm liking this. I'm liking this. I think we
Yeah.
definitely need to get you referred for some form of counselling by the sound by the sound of things. But 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 your point is very valid. Is like you are the idea, I guess, of the CRO is you have all revenue functions
Mhm.
aligned, and if you got them under one leader, you should have that better alignment than when maybe they were sitting in two vertical silos and those sort of things. Um,
Mhm.
and I genuinely, I genuinely mean this, not in some sort of trite like solution to this perennial problem, but I was involved in another podcast where we got some real heavyweight sales and marketing leaders on and sort of interviewed them. And there were two from one very large and very successful global organization, and we had this head of sales and head of marketing. And these two people, we interviewed them at the same time and asked them about sales and marketing alignment. And it literally came down to we work closely together, we talk to each other, we listen to each other. And I remember the head of marketing saying, she said, the voice of the customer coming through sales is very important. We need to listen to the voice of the customer. We need to listen to the voice of sales. And then the sales head of sales said, yeah, and we need to make sure we listen to marketing. And is it, I'm not saying that's necessarily a simple thing to achieve, but is it that simple? Is that just going to solve the problem? What's you thinking, guys?
I think it's a fantastic start.
Mm.
And so, apologies to go off piste again. I know it's quite topical, but World Cup's going on at the moment. You look back to the golden generation of the England football team. We had some fantastic performers in there, but there was lots of silos within the England squad. Gareth Southgate, whether you love him or loathe him, I'm a massive Gareth Southgate fan. He did change the culture within, whereby he got people talking, working together.
Yeah,
You and this included the press as well. But first of all, it was internally within the squad. So it didn't matter what club you played for, whatever position you was in, you was all part of one greater goal. Now, it could be argued that we perhaps could have won a tournament. We didn't, but without question, we performed and we got further than what we ever did. And that
yeah,
Mm.
come from creating that culture of talking, spending time with each other. Spend time with each other, you understand people's challenges and what they're experiencing. And
Mhm.
a marketing manager's and marketing executive challenge is very, very different to a and a
yeah.
sales director's challenge.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, the sporting one is very interesting, because you're like in any team, you'll have egos and differences and things like that, and it's
Mm.
those things that, it's even back in the day when people were in the office more often, it's like, are the teams? There's a marketing team, a selling team, different part of the building, different floors, different wing. They don't. I mean, like they're not going to interact with each other, are they? Right? It's just stuff like more problematic now. A lot of people working from home and things, but you've got to make those. You've got to make those conversations kind of
I
happen.
think I think that in sales, typically, as a department, you're probably under the most pressure in the business because you have targets. This is
Yeah,
the revenue that funds the rest of the business. So I think that because of that pressure, you add in the ego, all of a sudden you then become quite defensive when people are questioning what you're doing. And I think that sometimes perhaps it's the letting down the guard as a sales, trying not to be the expert in the room, but trying to figure out how to be better and stronger as a team,
yeah,
and being questioned or working with marketing isn't being questioned and scrutinized. It's for, like they've said, you mentioned earlier on, it's for them to understand what we're hearing on the front line when we're talking to
Yeah.
customers, because if they don't understand the conversations we're having, they can't change their messaging or their campaigns accordingly to give us the best chance of getting better quality leads.
Yeah.
So maybe this is all just some big psychological thing that we're overthinking it too much, or we're becoming too defensive, and that's what's stopping
Yeah.
sales and marketing get
It's
more
an
synergy
interesting.
together.
It's interesting. I'm thinking back to when I was in fast-moving consumer goods. I had a great sort of. We used to refer to them as trade marketing. They were sort of like the bridge between the brand marketing team and us as sales. And
Mm,
Katie, who supported me with my sector, she'd spend a lot of time in the field. She'd come on a lot of customer visits, a lot of customer meetings. She was writing, she was great. She'd be out with the sales team all the time, driving along, ride-alongs, all that sort of stuff.
yeah,
So, hearing it firsthand's very I think emotionally as well. It's hard for salespeople to go, they're not listening to us. Well, she's out with us all the time. She's out with
yeah,
us, and then she can do her job really well.
But do you know what, there, Simon? That there's a different element to that. Katie's spending time with the sales team. They understanding Katie's challenges there.
Yeah,
So when Katie goes away and she tries something and it doesn't work out, they're not going to dig her out. They're not going to dig her out because they've got a relationship with Katie and they're understanding that Katie's motivations are in the right place. So we're much more forgiving of people if we're
yeah,
working closer together. We understand their challenges there. So aside from the learning exercise that Katie was going through, she's actually building rapport with the
yeah,
sales team. They're not going to want to throw her under the bus because
yeah.
actually, do you know what, she's our colleague, she's our friend, and
Hmm.
she's got the right intention. She's got the right motivations in place.
mm,
Whereas if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
keeping yourselves in silo, you don't know anything about them. It's
yeah,
very easy to throw someone under the bus that you've got no allegiance or no relationship with at all.
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was a very very professional and very very proactive person, right, on from the marketing team. So, but I wouldn't want the listeners to think the answer is you need to if you're a salesperson, you need to expect your marketing colleagues to behave differently. You start. Why don't you invite them out for the day,
yeah,
right? Why do you actually go and see them more often, involve them in meetings, get them involved, like you say, start. Someone has to get the party started, right?
yeah.
Someone has to get
Who better than a salesperson to get the party started? So
yeah. And yeah, there was a
Oh, yeah.
guy. And looking back, there was a little bit of a divide between us rough and ready salespeople, and particularly the people operated in the rarefied atmosphere of brand marketing. Obviously, they were doing, above the line television and radio and all of this sort of stuff, and you know, and and let's not pretend that as a national account manager I had any idea about marketing a major brand or stuff like that. But there was a guy representing one of the brands, and he sort of took over and made a fantastic presentation at the sales kickoff meeting where he sort of walked on stage and he said, I know what you're expecting. You're expecting me to trot out a load of old marketing nonsense. He used a slightly different phrase, right? And
Mhm.
and the audience all laughed. And he said, "Yeah, I am going to do that, but then I'm also wanted to." And he had, but then interestingly, he stayed around for the whole evening. He'd booked himself into the hotel. He stayed around. He had drinks with all the team, chatted, and but just like built that relationship. And my team sort of unconsciously suddenly felt this great affinity for the brand that he represented. And I'm convinced, looking back on it, they started because he was he's a good guy. Steve's a good guy. So I'm going to go
Yeah,
out and sell. It's that emotional relationship, isn't it? Psychological bank account. He'd put some deposits in the psychological bank account between him and his brand, and the sales team.
yeah.
You got to win them
and
over.
and then made himself available to be able to talk and listen to them, right?
Yeah,
I know he was speaking and presenting and stuff to them, but like you said, he then stuck around and actually wanted to hear what anybody who wanted to talk to him had to say.
yeah, and right, and that was very much part of the culture as well. And I would say to all and challenge to all the salespeople, sales leaders, you know, as someone who is an expert at building relationships with people, customers, right? You're good at this. You're good at influencing and building relationships with people. So you have no excuse. You should be able to do that internally as well, right? Because selling revenue, actually, let's call it revenue generation is a team sport. It's not an individual to pick up on. Gareth Southgate didn't get one of the strikers in the England team to win. It's everyone in the team has to work, absolutely has to work together. I know that's a bit of a sporting cliche. It's true though. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
absolutely.
but back to the what you were saying, Steve, with that example of Katie, and how if Katie does get amongst what's going on, then goes back to do a campaign that doesn't quite work. Yeah, she's kind of got some support, and people know that the intention was right. But at the same time, you would also think that Katie's chance of getting it right is going to be so much higher by being in tune with what's going on with the sales team, and just, yeah, like I say, hearing what the customer's saying. Often where I try and get sales and marketing to talk together after doing training was just getting the sales guys, when they hear the words thank you, to just gracefully accept the thanks and then ask for some feedback. Because if we can get some feedback, that's free content for marketing. Marketing can then build case studies, which then give us more visibility, or that we could drop off like pizza menus when we go out to other people. So actually, a very small task from one can massively help the other, and they've both got the same goal. So fundamentally, the closer you work together, the further you're going to go as a team, right?
I think also, we're saying salespeople, reach out, start to build those. But to the point about, you're saying my marketing person's Katie's sort of success rate's likely to be higher because they've had input. I think psychologically as well, if salespeople think they've got their fingerprints on something, they've had some input, there's a bit of them in it, the
Yeah.
resistance to driving it goes away. It's not just marketing's campaign, it's our campaign. Because I've had to, and that's just fundamental basic people management, right? If people are involved, Phil Jessen, who used to be on the sales chat show with us, would say, if they plan the battle, they don't battle the plan, right? You feel when it's launched. Um, find early adopters in the sales team, bring them in as the champion for the new product development, use them in, to influence the rest of the sales team, get them involved so that when you bring your new product development, it's not cold on the sales team, it's hitting a warm audience. And you've got some champions in the sales team who are saying, this
Yeah.
NPD is going to be great because new product success rate's pretty poor, right? And I've seen salespeople, you know, kill off new products before they've even started. Like the launch goes, oh no, this will never work. The psychic salesperson, oh, this will never work. And now I'm going to prove myself correct by not, it's just like, really? It was. I brought a guy in, Martin, one time as working for me as a national account manager, and he came in from another organisation that was smaller than ours. And we went to this sort of new product launch, and I said to him afterwards, I said, "What did you think?" He said, "I am equally excited and disappointed." I said, "Oh, why?" He said, "I'm so excited, it's a great product." He said, "I'm so disappointed with the attitude of so many of my colleagues, is they've given up before they've even started." And
Yeah.
he said, if they knew some of the stuff I've been asked to sell in my previous job, and this is now a well supported, properly launched, but I think it's just if it lands on a cold audience, you're less
Yeah.
likely. You're less likely. We all know in sales, right? No champion, no deal. You've got to have that champion inside the client's organization. I think sales needs some marketing champions. Marketing needs some sales champions. I think get those relationships started. And I'm not pretending anything we've said is going to, you wave the magic wand and it changes the world of sales and marketing alignment, but it's probably coming down to the psychology of relationships, I think, and stuff is probably.
Yeah, well, it comes back to the simplicity which we didn't believe, that you mentioned at the beginning, of just talking to each other,
Yeah.
right? Talk to each other. You don't argue with each other. You don't have to be defensive. Learn about what the other's doing, because it's fundamentally going to help you too. So if it doesn't happen and you're in sales, you should invite your marketing person to come out on a few meetings or sit in on a couple of video calls, just to get their take or give them a perspective of what you do. And if you're proactive in marketing, then obviously you want to be reaching out to sales guys to ask if you can come and observe and just see what they're up to. There's
And also I think, sales leaders listening to this. I mean, Steve, I mean, you run a specific event at the National Sales Conference specifically for sales leaders, right? Because if the sales leaders don't get it, it absolutely doesn't happen. So get those marketing people invited to your meetings. They would always, sector meetings would have, I remember one time when my boss, we all went out, we'd had a very successful time, and we all went out paintballing together, which was incredibly painful experience. But it's really hard not to get on with your colleagues from forecasting and finance and marketing when you've been crawling through a wood shooting each other all day long, right? It just classically breaks down those barriers, doesn't it? Between, you don't have to go paintballing. In fact, don't, because it's very painful. It was really, there were two people at the end. They just, most of us at our pain threshold had been exceeded, but there were two people. One was a sales guy, one was from the marketing team, and they were like macho, and they got everyone else's paintball guns and stood opposite each other. It was like last man standing. It was until the ammunition, who gives in first, and these guys literally stood like 3 meters and just shot each other for about 3 minutes. I mean, and after that, they were bosom buddies for life, right? The shared, it was
I was just about to
bizarrely
say that's going to bond you. That is, I have to say.
yeah, the best way to get them working together, obviously, is to get them fighting with each other. That appears to be the magic. Steve, any closing thoughts? What's your, if there are two or three things we think folks ought to be doing? What do we got?
Well, obviously, I do think the social aspects, and it's all well and good having those sales and marketing meetings, but I suppose going back to it, people are going to go into those meetings with a certain expectation, and they might have their barriers up from the beginning. So I would definitely encourage, from a happy, successful cultural environment, have more social conversation, build those relationships outside the workplace. I think that's a given. The question I was going to throw out there as well, not dissimilar to the forecasting, but should they be incentivized on the results of a sales department or a sales professional? I know certainly within software companies, the actual the marketing manager's client is the sales director. That's the hierarchy within the organization. So they need to keep their customer happy, which is effectively the sales director or the VP of sales. So is there some incentive package there that they could actually win out of it as well? Okay, does the sales team want to give up their commission? Probably not. But they're building into the long-term strategy. Well, do you know what? You're going to actually generate a high return by the end of the year. Is that a conversation worth having?
Well, that's an interesting one, because my kendo sensei is in digital forensics. He's a tech guy, and he was taken by his organization. He was invited to come to the annual President's Club thing. They organize a President's Club and they go somewhere really nice, don't they, for a few days. And he was invited because of his contribution to the sales results. And he's not a salesperson, so he's sort of like I suppose tech support, tech sales, tech advisor, one of those. But that could equally be extended to marketing, couldn't it? Right?
Absolutely, yeah, it would. I mean, so pre National Sales Conference days, my background is I'm a project manager, I'm an event manager. I mean, looking back, I was a project manager, also an account manager as well. So it's my job to organise UK pavilions at international trade shows. So I would I'd book the space, coordinate the stand construction, the British embassies, UK trade associations, the overseas association. So I'd bring it all together. But we had a sales team that was selling companies onto that UK pavilion. Now, I was not remunerated at all in any kind of commission. It was a bit of but we had a project team, a sales team. There was a little bit of divide and healthy banter and healthy rivalry between the two of us. But it's just the way it was structurally worked. But when it come round to the rebooking for those companies to exhibit again the next year, the sales team typically struggled with it. It was often the project was often myself that actually did a lot of the rebooks. Likewise, when the sales team brought in a client at the 11th hour, it was down to me, the project manager, to process their government grant to make sure they had the right space. So if I'm a job's worth and I'm shutting down at 5 o'clock, they
Yeah.
ain't getting it. They're not getting their commission. So one of the sales guys who did very well commission wise, typically at Christmas time, he used to take us out and he used to just pay for the beers. Or at lunchtime we go out and we'd have a couple of beers at lunchtime, but he would shout them on occasions because he knew that we weren't getting rewarded through the company for commission, but it was in his very best interest that Steve Lindsay was performing at his best because it meant that he was earning more.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's just you do whatever you can. You do whatever you can do. You know, I had a client support guy who he'd sort of recently got married and stuff like that, and I looked at how much sales com I'd made for the year out of this account, and he supported me really closely on this account. And just at the Christmas do, I took him on one side and said, gave him 100 quid and say, take your new wife now. You just got married, you know, take her out for dinner on me because thanks for all your help over here. And it's like based on how much sales com I'd made on it, that was a massive return on investment. He was made up. Now I just did it. I didn't ask, by the way, whether I was allowed to do it or whatever. I just got on with it. So a bit of a maverick, but
Ooh.
there you go, right? Because he deserved it. It's just a thank you. It's just a little thank, and sometimes just that, even if it's not taking them out for dinner or whatever it is, Steve, right? Just the recognition's important, right? Of contribution, really, really powerful. Anthony, any closing thoughts?
I think that, well, on what you were saying there, I think it's a interesting idea that marketing should be based on commission too. I think that when you have a target and a number, good job, Graham's not here, isn't it? It can focus the mind a little bit as well, and I think that particularly as you've mentioned, there's certain people who are instrumental in sales or renewals who are not getting commission for this, and they definitely need to be acknowledged and appreciated. And whether, like you say, it's a kind of reward and you're taking them out, or whether it's just recognition in front of the rest of the team, so people know that this
Yeah,
person's made a big difference. So I think it's an interesting one, Steve, because I think it then spreads the pressure away from just to the sales team, which is why I think sometimes we, in your analogy, act like children that need to be managed a little bit. And yeah, I think it's a great idea. I suppose, in summary, for this sort of episode, the biggest takeaway I think I could probably highlight here is the lack of being defensive in
yeah,
sales, because I think that the ego creeps in, the pressure of the target and what have you is there too. And fundamentally, you're all trying to get to the top of the mountain, okay? And you all need to get there together. It's no point one person getting there first. So yeah, being more open and inclusive with marketing, I think, can only help and should increase the quality of campaigns, the conversion of leads, the synergy of teams. Yeah, it becomes a team sport.
yeah. It's a team. I think it's picking up on that football analogy. That's definitely a great one for people to focus on. I mean, I think I would just say that I was asked one time by a client. It was a little bit broader than just a sales remit. It was, what are your thoughts on improving cross-functional working? That was a kind of question. And I said, I've generally found that the best way to improve cross-functional working is to get people working cross-functionally. I mean, I was like tongue in cheek. It was a little bit like just get the working together on stuff, right? And then it'll sort itself out. And I would also say, don't overlook social interaction. Anytime I've asked people what's a high performing team, they normally say we used to have a really good time together in that team when we do have a really good time. And then I'll sometimes say, and did you socialize at least a little bit? It doesn't have to be anything too fancy, but typically, yeah. and it starts to break down. I think just generally, just get people working together, get people talking together, build those. It doesn't have to be very clever team building or expensive, right? Or expensive. Don't have to be going off and building a raft together and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes all you find there is they don't work very well in the office, and they don't work very well when they're trying to build a raft either. So try before you spend a lot of money, just get them working together. Invite them and step into each other's shoes. I think, which is a critical thing. So
just on a follow-up. Grant LeBoff he'd been mentioning this in a presentation at the National Sales Conference, is you can't go wrong if you take food to a meeting. Everyone loves food. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
With marketing are hosting breakfast one day, or sales team bake some sausage rolls or something like that. Food's always a good offering.
And I would say, if you don't know Grant, he is without a doubt a leading expert in marketing. So if he says food, I think you can rest assured that will be an excellent strategy. Donuts, whatever it is, there's breakfast sandwiches, whatever it is, chocolate, like you say, can't go wrong. Yeah, brilliant, excellent stuff. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and for all of our Sales Chat Show listeners, hope you've enjoyed this episode, found it useful. There are hundreds of other episodes in our back catalogue. You'll find them all listed at the saleschatshow.com website, or just have a look for the Sales Chat Show on whichever is your preferred podcast platform. We're on all the major podcast platforms. Please subscribe so you get notified of new episodes when they come out. And on behalf of Steve, Anthony and myself, we'd just like to wish you good luck, good selling, get those sales and marketing teams working together and generating that revenue. Until next time, have a great rest of your day. You have been listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and from everyone here at the Sales Chat Show, we'd like to wish you good luck and good selling.